Welcome, everybody, to another iteration of Nerding Out with Nic Bodiford. I'm your host, Nic Bodiford. The date is 12/5/2022. Monday Night Football just wrapped up, so we will have some notes on that one. But going back to Thursday Night Football, we're doing our normal thing. We're doing full game recap, and then we will touch on waivers as we go along. So Buffalo Bills 24 at New England Patriots 10. Occurrences of note. James Cook is now the Buffalo Bills lead running back. He was extremely efficient, has been all year. And I wrote that up. You can take a look at that at my 5 things we learned in week 13 over at the 33rd team. Broke down Cook's efficiency, broke down the Buffalo backfield, their usage. Devin Singletary is still a factor here. And, it's possible that we will find out in week 14 that they just gave Cook more work because of the short week. That's possible. Given the usage, I think that Cook is the full on lead. And so that means lead rusher, lead on passing downs. Actually go check out the per snap data. You'll get your answers all there. But James Cook, definitely worth an ad if he's available. Isaiah McKenzie is now the standalone Buffalo slot receiver. Khalil Shakir, for whatever reason, has been kind of kicked to the curb. So too bad for him, but great for those of us with Isaiah McKenzie. Things of note for the New England Patriots, other than the passing game sucking and Bill Belichick being out of his element with his incapable coaching staff. Damian Harris is probably going to be out. I think he's going to be out for a little bit. That injury, the way that they're talking about it, is that it's going to be a multi-week thing. I almost thought that he was going to end up on injured reserve, but that didn't happen. So anyway, he didn't practice at all last week. I think he'll miss week 14 as well, and we should feel good about what kind of a workload Ramondre Stevenson's going to have. Pittsburgh Steelers at Atlanta Falcons. Pittsburgh Steelers 19, Atlanta Falcons 16, and the Bills won that one 24-10. Pat Freiermuth, I think, is the only reliable Steeler on a week-to-week basis, and even he's a little bit shaky from time to time. Najee Harris, he's still going to be working through this abdomen thing, I think, for a minute. In a good matchup, he can pile up some rushing yards like he did kind of here. But they want him out there, and they also want to spell him with Jaylen Warren. It's not great. I think George Pickens is going to be a bust. He's running routes, but his per route efficiency is really pretty bad. He can develop. He could become a good football player, but I kind of think that George Pickens might. I likened him on Twitter to Jermaine Kearse, where a guy who makes a bunch of highlight reel catches, but is terribly unreliable on a per play basis. That's kind of where I think he's trending. Deontay Johnson is earning targets, but he's just not getting it done. Kenny Pickett is the rushing workload is there for him to be a high profile fantasy weapon, but he's just not getting it done. If you're in dire straits, I think that he could be a start just based on process. I would probably be looking elsewhere, but the rushing stuff is there. Sorry, getting late over here. As for the Atlanta Falcons side of things, so Tyler Algier, he's made this a 50-50 split with Cordero Patterson. And it's a huge bummer, but he's getting rushing work. He's getting passing down work. I don't think that either one of them are very strong starts moving forward. I probably won't drop Patterson past the RB4 range. We'll have to see. I don't remember what the deal is with the Atlanta bye, if they're on bye this week or not. I think they might be. But yeah, next week and Cordero Patterson probably an RB4. Marcus Mariota, he's compiled a solid fantasy stat line season long wise, but he is not performing on a week to week basis. So I'm not interested in starting him. Drake London, if we see this again from him, I think maybe we can trust him in week 17 or week 15. So he had a great day, and he continued having a phenomenal target, producing well in terms of target measurements. The volume just hasn't been there for him, and I'd like to think that with Kyle Pitts out, he's going to keep getting this, but it's so shaky that I don't know if we can really trust it. He is an excellent player, and if you need to, like, if you're searching for a flex option next week, which I don't think we have any teams on bye in week 15, so when he's back from bye, you can start him as a flex, but it's difficult to trust Drake London. Denver Broncos 10 at Baltimore Ravens. Things of note here. I'm not going to take time to tell you that Russell Wilson looks like he can't play anymore, and that Nathaniel Hackett is the worst coach since Urban Meyer, although Dennis Allen is pushing him. Courtland Sutton suffered a hamstring strain. Per Adam Hutchinson's injury index, wide receivers miss 2.6 games due to the injury on average. So I don't expect Courtland Sutton to play. Now, he did get a day-to-day tag, as I recall, earlier today. So it's possible, but I think that they have no reason to roll him out there. It's not like he's going to score him points. They're not going to score any. So I expect him to miss. And Jerry Jeudy, I think, will be worthy of a start. Greg Dulcich, pretty efficient. Not elite, but he's hitting some pretty fun thresholds. I think that he's a tight end one starter. Not a great one, but he's a tight end one starter. Latavius Murray, I have not been interested in him, generally speaking, this year. I think that this upcoming week, he will bring PPR value. He gets a lot of carries, and he does a mild to moderate job of earning targets. But this week they get to play the Kansas City Chiefs, who will blow them out of the water. Kansas City's defense has been very friendly to opposing running backs in the passing game, largely because they blow offenses out of the water. Now, this week, we'll talk about that. But I think that Latavius Murray, I won't be surprised if he finishes with between like 6 and 8 targets in week 14. And I think, if you need a PPR flex, I think that he could do it. Not flex, an RB2 if you have a 0 RB build. If you have a good wide receiver, you should start the wide receiver over Latavius Murray in your flex. Hopefully that's not what you're relying on. Just if you need a spot start, then Latavius Murray would you could do worse. Baltimore, unfortunately, Lamar Jackson suffered a knee sprain. I think a knee sprain. I think that's what the most recent report was. The reports have been all over the place on him. There was Jeff Mueller, and let's see here, Jeff, and then I think Edwin and Jessica Flynn. I think they all talked about how it could be a contusion, but given the way that the impact occurred on the patella, the PCL might be involved. So it might be a PCL sprain. He's probably going to miss a couple weeks. Maybe he's back in week 15, but I think it'll probably be a 2-game injury. I don't know a lot about PCL sprains. What I do know is that they can oftentimes be really tricky. So I don't love that. What to expect of Tyler Huntley? I covered that in the so I'm gonna grab some water here, but I covered that in the 33rd team 5 things we learned. So you can go take a look at that there. What I found looking at the data was what Huntley did this year, or this game, was very similar to what he did in his 6-game stretch as the starter last season. There were a couple games. I think he had 4 games as a starter and then 2 games as a meaningful substitution. But he performed a little bit better, and I broke down the schedule there, so you can go take a look at that. I think that Tyler Huntley will be a potential spot start, definitely in Superflex. I think he'll be a tight end or a quarterback 2 streaming option in the right matchups, because he has a little juice on the ground. Tight end Isaiah Likely suffered a shoulder injury. I think it was an AC joint sprain. Not going to be great. Probably misses sometime, but we don't have clarity on that yet. The backfield is a disaster. Green Bay Packers 28 at Chicago Bears 19. Things of note here: just put Christian Watson in your lineup and then just stop thinking about it. He's a top 15 wide receiver. I'm ranking him as I basically like the wide receiver 12 more often than not. There's a case he should be higher, case he should be lower, but he's efficient, and the efficiency is resulting in gaudy totals. We like that. Aaron Jones, shin injury. He's been dealing with this shin injury, I think Jeff said, for 3 weeks. He missed time in this one, and AJ Dillon ran fairly well in his stead. So monitor the shin injury for Aaron Jones through the bye. It's possible that AJ Dillon was dropped given his drought. So if that's the case, go add AJ Dillon this week. On the Chicago Bears, Justin Fields' presence keeps Cole Kmet relevant. Dave Montgomery's volume is there. Inefficient, but the volume is there. No, you cannot trust Chase Claypool. He sucks. And I thought that he was good up until like June. Or no, maybe July. I was off him by the end of July. Anyway, Chase Claypool is not good, and it's a big time bummer, but he's not good. Jacksonville Jaguars 14 at Detroit Lions. Things of note here: Trevor Lawrence suffered a knee injury. He was able to come back astonishingly, because if you saw him, his leg looked like it was caught in a tornado. I don't know how he came back. Didn't even look like he was wearing a brace. Maybe an MCL sprain, but they'll probably brace it up and he'll keep playing. Astonishing. So I can't believe he's walking. Evan Ingram is a tight end streaming option. Travis Etienne really just not doing a good job earning targets. It's a big bummer. As far as Detroit goes, I broke Swift's developments down in the 5 things we learned. Broke him down last week because he resumed the lead passing down duties. This week, though, DeAndre Swift asserted himself as a full-on bell cow. Led the team in carries. The passing down stuff, Justin Jackson mixed in a little bit, but Swift led the passing down role, and he was a big time factor in scoring position. So now he's no longer like low end running back 1 like I thought he was last week, just given that he took his passing down stuff back. Now he is an elite. He's an elite RB1. Now let's see here. I'll check live as to where I have him ranked this week, because there's some guys who just get this crazy overall volume. So he had 14 carries, and then he had the goal line stuff and the passing down work. I have DeAndre Swift right now ranked as my running back 5. Guys that I might move ahead of him: Ramondre, maybe Chubb, but the Cincinnati defense has gotten a lot healthier, so I don't think so. I think I'm going to keep him right there. I think the DeAndre Swift is going to be my number 5 running back this week. Exciting stuff. And this is a really fun matchup. The Minnesota Vikings defense is not good. The offense is pretty decent. That should get things going. Jameson Williams, he didn't do anything. And so that means you have a buy low window. Go buy him. Cleveland Browns 27 at Houston Texans 14. Deshaun Watson returned from his 11-game suspension for violating the league's, I don't know what they called it, conduct policy, because he had dozens of women accuse him of sexual misconduct. So he came back and he sucked. So that was fun to see. Now, as far as it goes, fantasy, we have to talk fantasy. He's not on any of my teams, but as far as fantasy goes, his rushing workload was there. And that's what we want in these elite quarterbacks. So if Deshaun Watson is a guy that you have on your roster, or you're interested in rostering him, the usage, the deployment, so to speak, it is there for Deshaun Watson to be a high scoring quarterback one. I expect him to develop or shake off rust fairly quickly, but he didn't play football for almost 2 years. So, he's going to take him a minute to get acclimated here. So I probably wouldn't start him in week 14. Amari Cooper, that said, dominated targets. That's cool. I think that there is a role emerging in the passing game for Kareem Hunt. As for the Houston Texans, Nico Collins, he's earning targets like an MFer, but he's really terribly inefficient. And I think this type of inefficiency probably ultimately loses his job. He'll probably be like, is Chris Conley still on the Texans? I think he's going to go the way of the inefficient receiver at some point, but right now the role is there, and he's beating out all of his teammates. And I know Brandon Cooks wasn't active, but Nico Collins has been out targeting him for since the bye. I think that was week 6. So it's not a debate anymore as to whom is the number one wide receiver in Houston. Dameon Pierce, he's got a minor passing down role. I think warmer waters are ahead here, but for whatever reason, the coaching staff idiotically won't use the exceptionally talented dual threat running back in a full-time dual threat role. And that's because Lovie Smith is not a good offensive mind. Pep Hamilton, I don't know what the deal is with Pep, because this is kind of flying in the face of his scheme. Pierce should be, anyway, it doesn't matter. Dameon Pierce, just assess him. He's not a free agent, so we don't need to go into that, but assess the matchup, check out the rankings. New York Jets 22 at Minnesota Vikings 27. Mike White is a quarterback, and he's an NFL quarterback. Will the magic wear off? Maybe, but right now he looks like he can play, and I think that they should stick with him if they want to win. And if they don't want to win, then they shouldn't win. They should tank, and they should get picks. If they want to win, then if they want to win, then Mike White got to be the guy. He can dish it, man. So Garrett Wilson, I think he and Christian Watson are just going to basically be ranked right alongside each other. I think with Garrett Wilson 1-2 spots ahead. Looking at, I think Watson is on, I think Green Bay's on bye. But yeah, I've got Garrett Wilson right now ranked as the wide receiver 12, behind Jalen Waddle and ahead of DJ Moore for week 14. Elijah Moore, yeah, so he was fun last week, but he did not do a good job of earning targets in his big blow up last week, and he was similarly poor, had a similarly poor outing. Maybe they end up trading him, I don't know, but we're not starting Elijah Moore this week. Zonovan Knight, he got that Joe Mixon role, so big time lead rusher, early down passing game role, some passing down snaps, but he's earning targets and he's really efficient. I think you have a season-long start. If you added Zonovan Knight, like I told you to last week, I think you have a plug-and-play RB2. On the Minnesota Vikings side of things, Dalvin Cook, he's been really inefficient, and I like the touchdown kind of covered that up. Fantasy-wise, I don't think I'm going to be recommending drafting Dalvin Cook maybe I'll recommend him as a 3rd-round pick next year. Maybe 2nd, but it won't be 1st. Washington Commanders 20 at New York Giants 20. This one was a tie. Out of nowhere, the Washington pass catchers were all extremely efficient. So kudos, good on you guys. And that includes Brian Robinson. So even bigger kudos, because who isn't rooting for that guy? New York Giants, hoping to my good listeners, I'm hoping that you guys and gals subscribe to PFF so you can read my stuff over there, because Isaiah Hodgins was in the DFS cheat sheet last week. Every week I give 5 daily fantasy recommended plays based on ownership projections, DraftKings salary, and what I think of the matchup overall. I know that Kenny Golladay was ill and did not play, but as I detailed in that piece, which you can go read, Isaiah Hodgins was already winning that role from Kenny Golladay. The transition was already occurring. He was playing efficient. He was producing efficiently, and it's worth noting here that head coach Brian Daboll, he had just spent the last few years in Buffalo, where Isaiah Hodgins spent the first 2 years of his career. Hodgins was waived by New York on November 1st. Brian Daboll signed him to a contract on November 2nd. Do I think that Hodgins will be their starter in their X receiver position next year? No, I don't. But I think it's his for the rest of the season, and he should be on fantasy rosters. Buy low on Daniel Bellinger. Richie James, it was a tough matchup, and he's dealing with a knee injury. I hope that he's able to get more healthy. But I think that both of those things were factors, and I actually wrote him up at PFF as a wide receiver to avoid in the wide receiver cornerback matchups, to target and avoid. Tennessee Titans 10 at Philadelphia Eagles 35. We all saw the Traylon Burks hit. Very scary. Mike Vrabel so far has refused to say whether or not Burks, 1, suffered a concussion, and 2, is in the concussion protocol. Here's the thing. He showed concussion symptoms, which I believe means that he has to enter the protocol, period. So I don't know why Vrabel is playing coy there. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I think we'll find out that Burks is in the concussion protocol. And, okay, kudos to him for holding onto the ball and scoring the touchdown on that hit, but that's not really what this is about, because this is his brain that we're talking about. So, I'm not going to add a boy too hard, because I think that detracts from the moment. The concussion protocol, what does he have to do? He has to, what he'll do is go through a series of non-contact drills. He'll be monitored for symptoms. Basically, what you want to see from him in practice this week is go limited practice participant to full practice participant. If he goes full and he doesn't have any symptoms recur, then he's going to be good to go. It's possible to clear him right at game time. Like he could be a limited participant on Friday, and they could clear him. But what that likely means, if he isn't able, if he has a limited practice on a day other than Friday, because if it's Friday and then he's able to make it through the weekend, and maybe they put him through a workout or something. I don't know how that works on Saturdays, but if you see him log a limited practice participation on Wednesday or Thursday and then progress to a full participation, that means that he's not showing symptoms as the protocol is going on. If you go look back at last week with Joe Mixon, who registered limited practice participation status on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that means that he was not progressing to the next step of the protocol. We were on this here 2 weeks ago when Joe Mixon suffered the concussion. Running backs average 1.8 games missed due to concussions. So that's why we wanted you to go get Pirine, and Pirine is very good. And I'm happy that I pumped him on the show 2 weeks ago, because he's a really talented running back. He's 5'11", 240 pounds, very efficient as a receiver. Like top 20 or better, as efficient as a receiver. So good. Anyway, good for Pirine. While I'm on the air here, I'm just going to double check the wide receiver concussion data. So they're at 1.7 games missed with concussion. So Traylon Burks is probably going to miss this week. Now, if he just flashed symptoms and didn't actually suffer a concussion, because we don't have confirmation of that, then maybe he could come back this week. We won't know until we know, but monitor the practice report and go from there. In his absence, I think Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is probably the best fantasy option in terms of the wide receivers. Robert Woods is not fantasy relevant. So I would not be relying on Robert Woods. Now, I'll look at matchups and maybe I'll find something that blows my mind, but I don't think so. Now, that said, I probably am not going to rank Nick Westbrook-Ikhine ahead of like wide receiver 48. So, potato. Um, the guy that I really want to talk about here, though, Chigoziem Okonkwo. I have been talking about him on this show for probably over a month. Well, actually, yes, over a month. I think I can trace it back to I'll have to go back and look at this early in the year. Now, in most redraft formats, you probably didn't have the bench room to stash him, but now is the time. His per play efficiency, and even just in more of the raw totals that you can look up on like Pro Football Reference, this dude is a frigging monster among NFL tight ends. He like his per reception data is outstanding. So I broke him down again in the 5 things we learned in week 13 article over at the 33rd team. You can check out his per route data there. But his profile, I'm not being hyperbolic here, filtering out tight ends were not earning targets. Okay. I think that sample that I used in the article was tight ends who earned at least 15 targets since week 9. And I used week 9. There's a link in there. It'll take you back to the previous week's work where we broke down 2 weeks before that, where we broke down Okonkwo's just on-field participation and how it has increased as the season has gone on. So I used week 9 because of where he was, both in his on-field participation as a whole, as well as, more importantly, his route running participation. The dude he's part of this offense now. I'm sorry, I know I'm raving about him, but like Chigoziem Okonkwo's profile has him looking like the next breakout tight end. And this week he gets the Jacksonville Jaguars, who boast the league's worst linebacking coverage trio. The 3 worst coverage linebackers in the NFL play on the Jacksonville Jaguars for the worst collection of 3. It's going to be a fun week for Chigoziem Okonkwo. I will be starting him this week. I think he is, everything's subject to change. You always need to be checking for rankings updates. But right now, Okonkwo is going to start the week as my tight end 7 in the week 14 rankings. Philadelphia Eagles side of things. Quez Watkins, AC joint sprain. Wide receivers average 3.8 games missed with the injury. Don't know the severity of it, but that's the average. What does it mean for the rest of the offense? Well, Jack Stoll, he's participating more, but Grant Calcaterra is a lot more efficient. I think Calcaterra's had a difficult time getting on the field because he's not a blocker. With Watkins out, the team might turn to Zach Pascal. They'll probably turn to Zach Pascal. There is hope, though, that they just go more 2 tight end heavy stuff, and Calcaterra actually kind of gets to function as the slot receiver. I think Calcaterra could be a dynasty tight end asset. I don't think he's going to be relevant this year. We'll see. Won't be starting him this week, but he has a lane now to do something. Seattle Seahawks 27 at Los Angeles Rams 23. The content warning, language warning, the Seattle Seahawks running back room is fucked. Kenneth Walker has a bizarre injury inside his foot, as Ian Rappaport described today. He's got a strange strain, maybe. It's weird. Just follow the physical therapy doctors on Twitter. Jeff Mueller is tweeting his heart out on this stuff, so follow him. I think Kenneth Walker misses this week. Travis Homer was ill last week, is also dealing with a knee injury, and they have talked about the knee injury as a problem this week. DJ Dallas, ever optimistic Pete Carroll, has described him as having a little bit of a high ankle thing. So that means he has a high ankle sprain. TJ Dallas, I mean, they could tape the hell out of him, I guess, if they have to, but I don't think he's going to play because he's got a high ankle sprain, and running backs miss an average of 3.1 games with high ankle sprain. So I can't imagine that DJ Dallas plays. Well, who does that leave? Tony Jones Jr., he of preseason New Orleans fame this year. And I think some regular season stuff last year. Maybe a little bit this year. Anyway, he's not that great. He has earned targets from time to time. He's got like a kind of a low end dual threat profile to him. But here's the thing. He'll probably carry the ball like 20 times. So you should add Tony Jones Jr. on waivers while monitoring the health of Kenneth Walker, Travis Homer, DJ Dallas. No, I don't think Rashad Penny is able to come back. Noah Fant is emerging. It'd be hard for me to tell you to start him this week, but he is starting to emerge. I think he's developing into the tight end prospect that we hoped he would be. This week, the Rams backfield, Kyron Williams led it. It was largely due to game script. You can't really start him or basically anybody else. So don't worry about it because the Rams, I mean, this is probably Sean McVay's retirement tour. Miami Dolphins 17 at San Francisco 49ers 33. Really, what happened here was the 49ers, their defense is well built to stop this offense, and they did it. So good job for them. Huge bummer for Miami. I'm not panicking really. Raheem Mostert, maybe he took back or maybe he took back the lead role, or at least it's a split backfield. Don't know. We'll see. We'll see moving forward, and we'll monitor the news. With Jimmy Garoppolo out, Brock Purdy is going to be the starter for the rest of the season. I broke him down at the 33rd team, so go check that out. Purdy is kind of short. He's 6'1", little beefy, crazy unathletic, and he ran a lot in college and was really super inefficient. Like I think he had 2 seasons under 3 yards per carry, which is hard to do. Matchup-based start, maybe we'll see. I think really what this means is that Christian McCaffrey, who is patellar tendon strain, they're going to be fine. They're going to give him all that he can handle. So feel fine about that. Jordan Mason is the number 2 running back in San Francisco. He ran very efficiently. I think he went over 50 yards on just 8 carries. Good for him. He needs to be rostered in 100% of leagues, all dynasty leagues for sure. But in redraft formats right now, you should go add Jordan Mason because he is the guy if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt or protests or whatever, misses time. We don't like to talk about injury. Kansas City Chiefs 24 at Cincinnati Bengals 27. I'm doing it. I'm hitting the panic button on Sky Moore. Dude's had his opportunities, didn't come to fruition. I am out, at least for redraft. Dynasty, not yet, but right now, redraft, I think you can cut him. This should have been a hit. Jerick McKinnon needs to be rostered all over the damn place. Yes, he is kind of a bad rusher, but the coaching staff trusts him, even in scoring position. We talked about Samaje Perine already. He is a hoss. Jamar Chase is so unbelievably good. We don't need to talk about that. Oh, Hayden Hurst is he's gonna miss this week. They got a backup tight end by the name of Will Cox, who I will study him. I don't know anything about him right now. I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant, but monitor the Twitter feed and the news. Los Angeles 20 at Las Vegas Raiders 27. Good day from Gerald Everett. Nothing else to touch on here. Go clap on the back, Josh Palmer. And there's really nothing on the Raiders either. Mac Hollins is not reliable. Foster Moreau, I think I said he could probably start on 10 teams when he first took over. Now I think it's probably more like 5. Indianapolis Colts 19 at Dallas Cowboys 54. He could always go to Indianapolis and join their tight end rotation. That would be cool because they already have like a bunch. Jelani Woods breaks out in week 12. He had 2 injuries he was playing with. I get it. But he was active, and it was Kylan Granson's week. It's so ugly. You can't trust these guys. Dallas Cowboys. So phenomenal offense. The only guy that's really worth like updating on, Michael Gallup. He got the job done, but he's still being really inefficient. So that kind of sucks. I think 2023 will be better for him. I wouldn't take this performance and go, great, he's back, because he scored 2 touchdowns and didn't do a whole lot else. Didn't do a whole lot else outside of that. Indianapolis Colts 19 at Dallas Cowboys. No, I already talked about that one. Oh, right. So now we're on to the Monday night football game. Dennis Allen is so bad. Taysom Hill, this is why you just start him every week as a tight end one. And who gives a damn if he doesn't do anything for you, because nobody else is anyway. So just start the guy who, let's see here, attempted a pass, completed it for 21 yards, carried the ball 3 times for 10, caught 2 of 3 passes for 35 yards and 1 touchdown. No one else in the game has this profile. And unless you have a very specific straight baller like Chigozie Okonkwo, you should probably be starting Taysom Hill, because on a weekly basis, who has a higher ceiling than this guy? And what happens if Andy Dalton next week throws 2 picks on his first 2 pass attempts and they pull him, and you got a tight end starting who takes over as quarterback in game for New Orleans? So I should check if they're on bye, but yeah, they are on bye. That's so funny. So anyway, rinse and repeat here with week 15. But point is, Taysom Hill, it just infinite upside. I know he's got a low floor, but yeah. Alvin Kamara just tumbling down the ranks. Dennis Allen just does not know what he is doing. Chris Olave, he's still good. Not a big outing here, but don't panic on him. Rashid Shaheed, not really a redraft name. I think I added him luckily in Dynasty like a month ago. He's been very efficient with his looks. He hasn't done a great job of earning targets, but he's been really efficient when he gets looks. I think that Rashid Shaheed should be owned or rostered in Dynasty formats. I don't think you need to roster him in redraft unless it is, if I have like an FFPC tournament listener, like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Or some weird thing, maybe, I don't know, Scott Fishbowl or something, but I don't know that he's going to be a weekly contributor, but he has the downfield role, and Dalton has been able to facilitate some fun outings, and we know Jameis Winston could do it. So Rashid Shaheed, super crazy deep leagues in redraft and definitely in Dynasty. Juwan Johnson was hurt. As to the running backs on the Tampa Bay side of things, Rachaad White is the starter. He's not that efficient per se, but he's the starter. He's not terribly inefficient. He gets a lot of dual threat looks. You can start him every week. Leonard Fournette, he's going to just be a little bit below Rachaad White in the rankings, but there's not a ton of daylight between these two guys. Cade Otton, right after, so this is kind of a funny line here. Cade Otton talked about it last week, how he hasn't been doing a good job of earning targets efficiently. Of course, he comes out here, earns 10 targets, catches 6 of them for just 28 yards, scores a touchdown though. If you have him in best ball, that's great. I'm not sold on his talent. He's earning targets, or did here, so that's good for him. Targets are earned. Has not been terribly efficient though. So I think that Otton, if you could afford to hold him on your bench, maybe. Definitely a dynasty ad, but I'm not leaning into Otton as a big time sure thing for week 14 right now. And that'll do it, folks. So as for any other news, okay, we got the Arizona Cardinals and Carolina Panthers coming off by D'Onta Foreman. He's got a pair of injuries. There's a foot and then ribs. I think he said the foot was worse, but he's going to play. Baker Mayfield was cut or is expected to be cut. Darnold has revitalized DJ Moore's career. 2022. So, go ahead and start him. DJ Moore, that is. And Keontae Ingram must be rostered in 100% of redraft leagues on the Arizona Cardinals side of things. That will do it, you guys. I'm going to go to bed. Hope you all enjoyed this show. Sorry for the yawns, but we're on the grind over here. Hit me up with your questions at Nic Bodiford, NFL, spelled NICBODIFORD. Hit us all up at NerdBall FF on Twitter and all of the various social media platforms, including Patreon. Go subscribe to our Patreon. Thank you all so much. Good luck.